Welcome to Cake on Tuesday, where we spotlight the rule breakers, the underdogs who refuse to listen when everyone said it won't work. I'm Elizabeth Bieniek, and for the next 20 minutes, we're diving into another disruptive innovation story that proves sometimes the craziest ideas change everything. Today's guest is Jim Carlough. He is an award-winning chief sales officer with over 30 years leading high-growth organizations and re-architecting underperforming teams in the healthcare industry. Jim believes in grit, discipline, and decisive action, and ascribes to the philosophy that leaders aren't born, they are developed. Yet as his career shifted to coaching executives, he discovered that it was rarely competency holding people back, it was identity. This shifted Jim's own mission to become known as the Leadership Identity Architect, focused not just on teaching leadership skills, but building a leadership identity. Jim Carlough, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm really excited to dig into this Leadership Identity Architect. But first, could you tell us a little bit about what sets your soul on fire about what you do, Jim?
So about 25 years ago, I worked for Perot Systems, and we had a mentoring program. It's also one of the only companies that I worked for in my career that had a true leadership development program. And it's sorely missing in our corporate world today. I mean, as margins get tighter, the first things people take away is training programs. But the other thing is we look at training from a spot perspective. Somebody wrote a book on how to speak to people. So, that's a course we're going to go take, or that's what we're going to offer our people. We're not really giving them frameworks. And so as I was mentoring people, I kept noticing a trend of what people were missing. And about 2 years ago, I sat down and started considering, what will I do when I retire? Well, I stink at golf. Actually, I more than stink at golf.
That's out.
and so that wasn't going to happen. Fishing, it's too boring. And I know that if I don't do something, my wife will leave me a list every day that I don't want to do. So I started thinking, what can I give back? And the thing that I kept coming back to was the fact that I've been very successful. I've made other people successful. Why not share that knowledge? So I started with a list of everybody I mentored and all of the characteristics that they were missing at the time I first met them, and things that I felt were important in leadership. And then I narrowed that list down. The original list was like 15 to 18 items. And I said, I'm not going to write a book on 15 to 18 items. I'm going to write a book on something that people can implement, and something that speaks like I speak and how I've worked with people. And that's what I've done with the 6 pillars of effective leadership. Now I'm taking that and I've transformed that into corporate workshops, but also cohorts where I can take 6 to 10 to 15 people at a time and take them on an 8-week journey, and to improve their leadership skill and to become the leader that everybody wants to be or wants to follow. And that's creating a leadership identity that's quite unique.
Okay. So you teed up your book, which you were kind enough to send me a copy of. I have it here. I'll give you a little plug here. So 6 pillars of effective leadership. One of my questions was going to be, what prompted you to write a book? Because you've fortunately answered that already. Because having gone through that process myself, it's painful. It's really hard distilling years and years of experience into something that's short, succinct, and withstands the test of time. But I like that you called out here, you talk about the leadership landscape today and what's different and unique about that from what it may have been in years past. But then you also dive into some of these time-tested leadership traits on things like integrity and focus and compassion, which have withstood the test of time. This is really speaking my language because I am a big fan of the ecclesiastical wisdom of there's nothing new under the sun. Yet at the same time, we work in fields that are constantly changing with the advent of AI. Everyone's industry is getting disrupted. How do you juxtapose those two of here are the age-old truisms that are going to work today just as well as they worked many years ago, and here's what's really changed?
So when you break it all down, there's always going to be change. We as humans are going to evolve. We're going to be hit with new technologies. Today it's AI. In the early 90s, late 80s, it was the PC computer. And then before that, who knows what it was, a pencil sharpener. I don't know, way back when. But when you look through all of those things, while technology and advancements have changed us, they've made us be able to work faster, smarter, cheaper, and to be able to give us more information at a faster pace, which is what AI is doing. I think AI is an evolution just like leadership is, and it will continue to change. But I also think there's a misnomer about it. It's not going to solve the world's problems. And AI is not going to replace leadership. It may give leaders knowledge quicker, but it can't replace leadership. For example, AI cannot show compassion. AI can't interpret when Elizabeth is having a bad day and what to do about it. AI maybe can tell you a joke if you say, hey, tell me something funny, and it'll do research and find the joke of the day somewhere and give that back to you. But it can't show compassion, can't show empathy, can't show focus and stability. And these are the things that have been tested over time. And the people that have been most successful have used some of these in their own doing. And one of the things that separates, I think, my book from others is it's not theoretical at all. It's practical.
Mm,
That's number one. The second thing is in each chapter, as we talk about each pillar, we talk about people in the real world who exhibited that pillar in what they did. People as far back as Abraham Lincoln, Nelson Mandela, and to more current times like Satya Nadella, the chairman and CEO of Microsoft. All of them have used something different in their management style that made them very successful. Now, when you combine them all, it becomes really, really powerful. And I'll explain why. Today in America, we average, and this goes, the Society of Human Resources, this data comes all from them. I didn't make this up, but they put out some information a year and a half ago that our average national attrition rate by companies is between 10 and 15%. The cost to replace somebody who voluntarily leaves is anywhere from 60% of their salary to 300%, depending upon the skill set that's required, the productivity that's lost, and the amount of training you have to do to the newcomer coming in. That's a lot of money. And so when I look at somebody with an attrition rate at 10 or 15%, or just take 10%, and I look back at my career, my overall career average is less than 5% voluntary attrition,
mm.
which means people that I either hire right or I hire people who don't want to leave and continue to strive to do better. And I think we've lost some of that. And along the way, we've lost some other things as well. So that's why my focus and why the workshops become important, because I think I can now mentor people in scale and try to move that needle that corporations are having trouble moving.
Yeah, I think you're definitely hitting on something there too of the numbers don't lie. And you could basically look at the numbers and say, even if you didn't pinpoint it to what, you got something right on that. So let's dissect that and find out why. There is one chapter or one section in particular I specifically want to jump to because you have a chapter titled Humor and Leadership. So this is talking my language here. You have a quote there that says, leading with humor isn't about being a comedian. It's about making people feel important and involved. I think that is a really important distinction. I think a lot of times people look at humor as a crutch or an add-on. And I mean, we're on the Cake on Tuesday podcast. I talk about celebration a lot and having fun at work a lot as a necessary part of it. What are some of your favorite ways to add levity to a situation to ensure that you're having humor in a situation, especially when you're doing hard things or especially when things are tense?
There's three areas that they are specifically used for. I use it as, and I call it my strategic weapon. I use it typically to kick off a meeting. And if you think back, Ronald Reagan, when he was president, always kicked off something with a farm joke or some type of humorous story to get everybody relaxed. And I do the same thing. I never met Ronald Reagan, but I've heard him speak enough that I can tell you that that's how he spoke whenever he spoke. And so, I use it to humanize myself as a leader. And so people can recognize that it's okay to relax. We're going to get through this no matter what the topic is. That's number one. Number two is in the meeting to redirect the conversation if we start to go away from the agenda topics. The third is to diffuse conflict, or to diffuse not just conflict, but people who are getting wrapped around the axle of the wrong thing and not seeing the forest through the trees, and a way to break it up. Now, at the same time, I'm glad you pointed out that I said you're not going to be a comedian. I'm not a comedian. And the other thing is, we live today in a society that's super hypersensitive.
Yeah.
So anything that I say humorously is self-deprecating humor. That's something that I can laugh at, something that I did and that I can laugh at now that I maybe didn't laugh at the time. But that does two things. Number one, it covers the strategic use of humor. But number two, it humanizes me because people can say, I did something stupid like that, right? Like closing the car door on my finger, my keys in the other hand. I mean, I did that once. That's a true story. And I was in my own driveway. So not only did I have my keys in my hand, all I had to do was yank my finger out and walk in the house and get another set if I didn't have them in my hand.
Yeah.
Those are examples of things that you can do to change the discussion that's going on. But it's very important to know where to draw that line because you don't want to offend anyone.
Yes. I like the fact that you said you use it often to start a meeting to kick things off. I personally find that setting a tone for a meeting, those first couple minutes are crucial to how that meeting is going to come out, because setting a tone, blowing up preconceived notions of how that meeting is going to go. Everyone's walking in usually with an agenda or an idea of, I think I know what this meeting is going to look like. What are some of your favorite stories of how you've really set the tone for an experience walking into it in the first few minutes?
This one just came to my mind as you started to say that. I was speaking at a state hospital association conference.
Okay.
I worked for a technology company that supplied technology to hospitals at the time. So we had all hospital executives in the room. And as I walked up on stage after I was introduced, there was a lot of chatting in the audience. The gentleman in the front row was the president of the hospital association. And next to him was the head of the partnership and alliance program of the association, who signed a contract with me to be able to give the hospitals in that state a discount for our services.
Okay.
And I walked up and I really couldn't get their attention. I said good morning and they kept chatting. And finally I said, how many of you think the insurance companies are screwing you? I absolutely said that. And silence and every hand went. And the poor guy in the front row and the president of the association, who I had a great relationship with, both looked like they were going to have a coronary. But then I said, now that I have your attention, we're not going to talk about the insurance companies today, but I just wanted to bring everybody back to ground zero. That was probably one of the craziest things I've ever done, but I did get their attention.
It worked. It worked. I think that reframe and reset is important sometimes, though. I think one of my background is innovation, specifically emerging technology, corporate innovation. And I find one of the things we can really fall into the pattern of just assuming same old, same old. And sometimes taking that bold action to just say, let's shake this up a little bit. Let's do the unexpected is necessary.
And in healthcare, it's never going to change.
Yeah.
The doctors want to be paid more. The insurance companies want to pay less. And to me, it's a three-legged stool. You've got the members sitting on the stool, and then you've got the doctors and hospitals. Then you've got the pharmaceuticals. And then you have, the members is third stool. And unless they all come together, you have nothing. Oh, no, the PBMs. Unless everybody comes together, we can't solve the problem in healthcare.
Right.
And the sides are never going to come together. The larger lobbying entities in Washington, D.C. are the hospital and providers associations and the pharma associations. Insurance is up there, but I think it ranks 6th or 8th or something like that. So there's a lot of money spent on this in Washington, D.C., which is problem number one, that we allow that and allow that influence. But the reality is it's a tough problem to solve.
Absolutely.
And, Obamacare didn't solve anything. It made insurance available to those who might not have done it. It did make a difference in allowing people who were on Medicaid, who got a job, to get a job that maybe got them off Medicaid, but allowed them to get subsidies to pay for the insurance. It was successful in doing that.
Yeah.
Outside of that, it didn't do anything to lower the cost of healthcare, not a dime. And so as we're reading, even in the Medicare Advantage market, how the costs are going up, we have to find ways to get the costs to come down. And until everybody sits at the same table, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So you took a very long career of learning things by practically doing them. I love the fact that your book is based on actual stories and real life examples of going through this. Is there anything that jumped out to you in the process of writing the book itself? I find I love the forcing function of writing because it makes you really distill your thoughts down and make them clear and simple such that you can communicate to somebody else. Is there anything in hindsight from your years of experience that you had an aha moment or, I didn't realize that insight when I was in it, but I see it from the rearview mirror now? Anything that jumped out in the course of writing the book?
Yes, because as I went through each chapter, I really worked hard to try to bring to life the pillar through a life lesson or a time that I used that without relying just on other people in the world who did it. And I really had to think about them. And there are some aha moments, but there's some aha moments that have stayed with me and I do every single day. So as an example, integrity. The year I graduated college, which was 1983, I also ran for local political office in the town I grew up in. And shortly after the election, which I was 22 at the time, I was invited to the city hall to meet with the city administrator. And we sat down and we're just chatting. And he said, I'm not here to complain. You did a great job. You're going to be great. You're going to be mayor. You could be governor. You can be. And I was like, I don't know that I want to do all that. But he said, I want you to do me one favor. And this one favor has stuck with me to this day. And he said to me, when you lay down and put your head on the pillow at night, I want you to ask yourself one question. And that question is, did I do anything today for my own personal benefit that was at the expense of another individual, group of individuals, or organization? And then he went on and said, if you answer yes to that question, you need to immediately do two things. Number one, figure out how to unwind what you did. And number two, figure out how to never do it again. To this day, I ask myself that question every night. I don't ever remember answering yes to that question.
Yeah. I kind of wish you went into politics, Jim, and we need more politicians who are asking that question.
Well, and I think, and to me, I made it a point of making integrity in the book non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And I made it that way because when I think of integrity, it is the center pillar that's holding up the peak of the building or the peak of the house, and it's going to bear the most weight. If integrity breaks, we lose everything underneath it. We lose trust. We lose confidence from our people. And the moment we lose trust from our people, we can never regain it back, or it will take years to regain trust back, just like it would in any relationship. And if I think of one thing that we're missing today, and I'm not making this as a political statement because it's been around for a long time, is a lack of integrity. And I think we lack it in our political system. I think we lack it in world politics. I think we lack it in a good number of corporations. And I think some of those have made the news every now and then on things that they've done that were unimaginable. But I think that focus on integrity and transparency is critical to our future success. And so to me, I wanted to make sure that people knew the importance of it. I can't change the world, but if I can change one company or one leader's identity at a time to think about driving down that lane of integrity and how not to waver off of it. Because we will all be challenged at one point or another with a situation that involves your personal integrity. And how are you going to handle that situation?
That, Jim, is an excellent message to wrap on. Where can people find more about you, about your book? And I understand you have a special offer for our listeners today.
I do have a special offer. So first, let me just say you can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and my website, which is just, if you look up my name, it's just Jim Carlough, all squished together, no dots or periods.com. And there's some free resources there. You can also communicate with me there as you can also on Facebook and LinkedIn. But as a gift to the audience today, I like to always get feedback from what other people think. So for the first 3 people that comment on this episode, on which social media platform were you going to use, Elizabeth?
Let's do the Cake on Tuesday page on LinkedIn, because there's a
On
page
LinkedIn.
just for the podcast.
Okay, so for the podcast page on LinkedIn, do not put your address in LinkedIn.
Yes, please.
For the first 3 people who make a comment, I will send you a free autographed copy of the book. By tagging us in that post, I will know who to send it to, but I will reach out to you privately to get your address. There's no charge for shipping, no charge for anything, and I'll even sign the book. So first 3 people.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Jim. And just as a shout out for his book, it has a 5.0 rating on Goodreads, y'all, like with hundreds of reviews. That is not easy to get because reviewers are very honest about their feedback. So it has a fantastic rating.
4.98.
Okay, well, we're going to round up. So it said 5.0, another thing I saw. So thank you very much for that offer, Jim. That's
I was
awesome.
on another podcast episode yesterday, and it was interesting. The book came up, and I gave the Goodreads numbers and the Amazon numbers, and the host said, I looked those numbers up. He's telling you the truth. He said, I've had people come on the show and try to say that they're a bestseller, and they're really not a bestseller. So anyway, but
so it's the real deal. Well, it has to be if the first chapter is about integrity. So thank you, Jim, so much for being here. Jim Carlough, y'all.
Thank you all.
Thanks for joining another Cake on Tuesday celebration of beautiful disruption. Please share it, review it, and find more innovative stories at podcast.cakeontuesday.com. I'm Elizabeth Bienyik. Be bold, stay curious. Now go have some cake.